In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at 7 essential tips for core strength and stability. It comes from Ultimate Back Fitness and Performance, which you can see up on the shelf behind me. And we're going to go through these one by one, but they do overlap, they do interlink, and they do sort of build a foundation for other ones. So in that respect, we're going to be repeating ourselves, but if we can put in these 7 essential tips, your core strength and stability is going to be much improved. Number 1 is all muscles are important and they are arranged in a way to help each other. So if we look at the architecture of the core, we've got muscle fibers going in all different directions, which give it the architecture that's very similar to carbon fiber. It's got fibers that overlap, which gives it great strength, keeps it lightweight, and gives it a degree of flexibility, but still maintaining the strength there. So if we can understand that architecture, we can then start understanding the exercises that we need to give it. If we can also understand that all these muscles work together, then we can start to understand that we need to work all the muscles together within those exercises. So we need to start thinking about working multiple muscles rather than just individual muscles. It's also got fascia, which sort of not only constructs the different layers of the core, but also wraps itself all the way around. So it gives it that holistic integrity to it, because it goes from the most deep layer to the most superficial layer, and it's at the front, the back, and the sides all the way around. Number 2 is to co-contract muscles. So this basically means, as I mentioned before, because we've got that architecture where they are helping each other, we need to co-contract them so they can then do that. That means doing the abdominal brace, which is bracing the abdominal wall. You've also got pulling the shoulders back and pushing the shoulders down. What this will do is not only activate the abdominal wall, but it will also activate the muscles of the lower back, the lumbar extensors. Number 3 is training single muscles can compromise stability. Now, what this means is if we have a very good rectus abdominis, so we've done a lot of sit-ups, we've got a very good rectus abdominis, that's going to affect the spine because it's going to concentrate more of the load in a specific area. It's going to create a potential muscle imbalance because of something called reciprocal inhibition. So when one muscle becomes overly active, it can shut down another muscle in the opposite part of the body, or the antagonist to that muscle. So we need to be able to keep muscles in balance to be able to spread the load around the torso. Number 4 is maintaining a neutral spine. Now, this is a little bit controversial for some people because some people say that neutral spine doesn't exist. Some people say it's not a static position and it's sort of ever changing. And there is some truth in that. But what we have to understand is that when the spine has its natural S-curve and we keep it in as best a neutral spine posture as we can, it spreads the load more evenly around the torso. As I mentioned before, if we've got an overactive muscle, it can start to create a compensation, and that overactive muscle can then start to concentrate load in a certain area. If we can balance the muscles of the core, maintain the neutral posture of the spine, we spread the load much more evenly around the spine, protecting it, which is then also allowing the muscles to function more correctly. So not only are we getting proper muscle function, we're getting proper spine position, and then we're able to, in some respects, cope with more load, and we get more performance from the spine and from the core itself. Number 5 is symmetry of muscle stiffness is crucial. And what we're talking about there is, as I've mentioned before, we want to be thinking about exercises that train multiple muscles. Now, as I've talked about in other tutorials, I describe core exercises. You've got static core exercises like planks, side planks, bird dogs, bridges, and their variations, which maintain a degree of stability, static nature to them in the fact that you don't move like a plank. And then you've got more dynamic ones. So you would be thinking about squats or deadlifts or presses or pulls or pull-ups or push-ups and different exercises like that. Chops, reverse chops, so on and so forth. So we've got all of these. So if we can get that muscle symmetry all around the torso by using all of those different types of exercises. So I'm not saying you need to go and do planks or just side planks, we need to get symmetry. So you may even do some kind of assessment and realise that the plank position is really strong, but the side planks are really weak. So we've got an asymmetry there from possibly front to back or just front to sides, or you might have from left side to right side. So we need to build those up and build some symmetry within those muscles to then be able to get the proper abdominal brace, to then get the proper position of the spine and distributing the load around the spine as well. So where they are, those points are overlapping, there are slight differences in how they need to be achieved. Number 6 is muscle endurance and motor control are essential. Now what this means is essentially what I call core strength and stability. Now when I'm saying core strength, I'm helping people recognise a term that they know. If I said core endurance, they wouldn't necessarily recognise that term, but when I say core strength, I mean core endurance. But I just want people to recognise that the title of the video, for example, is something that they might want to watch. But then in the video, I'm then able to help educate them that core strength isn't necessarily the way forward, but core endurance is. So essentially I'm saying core strength is core endurance. Now endurance, what we're talking about, is the ability of the core to be able to hold a posture for a long period of time whilst resisting fatigue or without fatigue. Because that allows the muscles and the spine, so the vertebra, the discs, and the passive tissues like the ligaments, they are able to withstand that load, which then isn't going to create as many micro traumas, which then is going to put them into increased risk of damaging the spine. So we need to be able to get the core endurance there, but we also need the motor control, which is essentially core stability. But if we, or spine stability, but if we then take it down into the hips, good motor control is good smooth movement that's well balanced and well poised. So when we are doing exercises like deadlifts, like chops, where we are moving multiple joints, we do it smoothly, we do it with good balance, and we do it in a let's just say an elegant way. So it's not jerky, it's not sort of weight shifting and biasing one leg and the other. We're trying to keep it as even as possible. So when we do that, that helps create good quality muscles in so much as we bring the symmetry to them. So if we can do an exercise evenly, we start to bring symmetry to the muscles. If we can then bring that symmetry to the muscles, we then get even movement. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in some respects, in that if we can do one, it impacts the other, but if we can do the other, it impacts the other one, if that makes sense. So if we can do both of them, it then turns into a sort of a virtuous cycle rather than a vicious cycle. And then the final one, number 7, is to move better. So as I've mentioned with regards to motor control, the better we can move, the more efficient the movement, the less stress on the muscles and the less stress on the passive tissues. We can still get the same performance from it because we've got the joints in their most effective position. We're spreading the load around, we can still lift the same weight, so in some respects performance can go up whilst reducing the risk of injury. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to eliminate the risk of injury, because there's no way of doing that. Because if you just keep loading a joint, you've got the best posture in the world, but you keep loading without adequate recovery, eventually that joint will fail if you do not recover it. So not only do we need to move better, we need to get proper recovery, which will again help us move better. Because as sports go on, as reps go on, as we train for those sports, for example, or just training in general, as we do that, that is going to have a knock-on effect to how we move. But if we've got better endurance, if we've got better motor control, we can maintain that position and perform those reps for longer with good position, minimizing the stress. So you can start to see all these 7 points are very interweaved. We need the abdominal brace. We need good quality movement. We need good quality muscle balance. So all of these are working together to give you a minimized risk of injury, but maximized performance out of the everyday life or the sport of your choice. Many thanks for watching this tutorial. I hope it's been helpful. Hopefully it's given you a better idea and some sort of maybe just some clarifying ideas of the type of training that you're doing, possibly why you're doing that training, and maybe some new ideas to start bringing into your training. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris from Critical Training. I will speak to you in a future video.